Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Prince Automation Destination. This side Prince. I hope you are doing well. So today let us continue our discussion on ChainLP report along with MySQL database. Previously we covered ChainLP report along with H2 database, which is not a real-time database, but in real time, when we will be setting up chainLP server, at that point of time, we need to use some real-time database such as MySQL, Postgres, or any other RDBMS. So without further delay, let me jump on to the discussion. So we will be talking about chainLP report integration with MySQL database. Before that, let us try to understand what is chainLP report. ChainLP report is one of the reporting in chaintest report, and chaintest report is successor of extend report, as extend report is deprecated, meaning there won't be further releases for extend report. Also, this chaintest report comes from the developer of extend report itself, that is Anshu Arora. So we have already discussed that it has three type of reporting. First one is simple report, which is similar to HTML report of extend report. Then we have email report here, where we get the report in emailable format. And then we have chainLP report. In this case, we set up a server. As we are setting up a server with the help of Docker container, so we need some databases. Previously, we discussed with S2 database, and today we are going to talk about MySQL database integration along with chainLP report, meaning we'll be setting up chainLP server with the help of MySQL database. In case you want to understand how to set up chainLP report along with S2 database, you can check out my previous video. I'll be sharing the link of same in the I icon. So now, in order to utilize or in order to start chainLP server along with MySQL database, we should have MySQL database downloaded and installed in the machine where we want to run chainLP server. So in my case, I have downloaded this particular MySQL server from this particular URL, and I have installed it, and during installation I have chosen root as a user and I have configured password as well. So in case the database is already set up in your machine and you have username and password, you can utilize that particular username and password. But in my case, it was not already installed. So during installation, I choose root as a user and I configured my password, which I'm going to use later. Right now, we have downloaded MySQL server. Next thing is we need to up the chainLP server, meaning we need to start the chainLP server. So for that purpose, developer of chaintest report has provided various Docker Compose files to run chainLP server along with different type of databases. So let me show you the same. So this is the GitHub location of chaintest report, and this is the Docker Compose -mysql.yaml file. This is Docker Compose file to run this particular chaintest or chainLP server with MySQL configuration. So let us try to understand. So version is 3. Services. So in Docker Compose we can define services, meaning we can run multiple containers with the help of single Docker Compose file. And here we have defined the service name as chaintest, and this is the image which is also developed by the developer of chaintest and is available on Docker Hub. We don't need to worry about it. We just need to worry about this particular Docker Compose file, which will be utilizing to start the server, right? So this is the image and this is the container name it has given, right, which is also chaintest, right? Now we have some environmental configuration. So when we deal with Spring Boot server, because this chaintest or chainLP is a Spring Boot based client server architecture, so here we are using MySQL as a profile because we are going to talk with MySQL database, right? Here we need to provide the URL, and by default this MySQL database runs on 3306 port. So in case you have a different port, you can provide that, right? And this particular is for the mapping between the container and the local host, right? So this is the URL that we need to provide, right? So we'll come to that, and this is how we need to define the class name, and here we need to provide the username and password that we just set up during the installation, right? So we discussed this step that during installation we need to create one user, which is root user in my case, and we need to configure password, which is test@123 in my case, right? Now how we will provide this information in Docker Compose file. So we'll have to download it. In my case, I have already downloaded it here on this particular location, right? And if I have already opened it, right? So you can right click after downloading this particular Docker Compose file from this particular location, right? From this particular location you can download, right? And then after you need to edit this, and you need to simply provide username and password, right? Correct. Now what we need to do after providing username and password, we need to first connect to database and create new DB, right? So in order to connect to this particular database which we have installed, that is MySQL, I'm going to use this Dbeaver, which is a universal database manager. You can use any other connector, but I'm going to use this one, so you can download it to connect to any database. As we are going to connect to MySQL, I'm going to click on next, and here we need to click on URL, and here we need to provide the JDBC URL. As this MySQL is running locally, so we need to provide localhost, and the port is 3306. This is what we just discussed, that by default this runs on local machine, right? On this particular port, I mean, right? Now username is root, right? Because with this is what we configure, and now I need to provide my password, which is test@123. And now I'm going to create connection and check whether it is working. So you see that it is successful. I'm simply going to click on finish, right? So I'll come back to this particular slide. So it is saying first we need to connect to database and create new DB with name chain test. So I'll tell why we need this, because if you go to this particular Docker Compose file, they are providing this particular JDBC URL, and at last they are providing the name as chain test. So because by default when this chain LP server will be running, it will be pointing to this particular database. That's why we need to create this database, right? So we have connected to this particular database. Now I'm going to expand databases. So by default there is only system database. I'm going to right click and going to click on create new database, and I'm going to give it name chain test. So if I'll expand it, you will see blank tables. There is nothing as such, right? Now the next thing is we are going here, right? Because we have downloaded MySQL, we have installed it. Now we are going to this particular Docker Compose file, and we have updated root and like username and password. Now we are going to start this particular Docker Compose file, right? So for that purpose, we need to navigate here, right, where this Docker Compose file is located. We need to type in cmd, meaning we need to open cmd, and we need to navigate to this particular location. And then we are going to use this particular command docker compose, because this is Docker Compose file, and this is how we can start a Docker Compose or run the Docker Compose file, right? -f, and this is the file name, this because this is MySQL, and then we need to provide up, right? As soon as we will click on this, like we'll provide this particular command and hit, this chain LP server will be started, right? Which will be pointing to this MySQL database. I'll just show you. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes. So it is getting started. So we'll see that the chain LP server is started. So started chain LP in 22.27 seconds, right? Now what we'll do is we'll simply try to launch this particular local host, right? Meaning this chain LP server is up now, right? Also, I'm going to show you like these tables were blank previously. Now when we have started this particular chain LP server, and if I'll refresh this, we will see these tables, right? So these are auto populated when the chain LP server is started, right? Now next thing is we have started the chain LP server. Now we need to go to test automation framework, and we need to configure these settings for chain LP report, right? So first of all, chain test dependency we need to upload update, I mean, and we are using this chain LP version 0.0.9. What does this mean? Means this is the report, right? So this is the if I go here, right, so this is the version of this particular chain LP image, I mean, right? So if I click here, so you will see 0.0.9, right? So I'll come back and click on projects, and then we'll come back here, right? Now we need to navigate to the project. So I'm going to test.ng first, and then I'll be going to cucumber, right? And in chaintest.properties we need to provide project name, and this is to enable chain LP report, and this is the location of class, and as we are running locally, so we need to provide localhost, right? So let me go here and let me open test.xml, and here somewhere we'll find chaintest.properties, right? And now we will see, we will look for chain LP, right? So these are the configuration of chain LP, right? Chain LP dot enabled is equal to true, and this is the class name that you need to provide. And as we are running locally, so we are providing localhost, and this is something related to screenshot, which I'll discuss later, right? Now what we are going to do, this is the test case, which is launching source demo app, entering the credentials, and then after adding one item into the cart, and we are verifying it. This is a positive use case, so I'm going to run it from test.xml. So I'm going to right click and going to run it. So test.xml is also pointing to this particular class, right? So it should launch Chrome browser and open source demo app, and should be able to enter the credentials, should be able to add item into the cart, and should be able to proceed successfully, right? So test case got passed. So let us navigate back to this particular chain LP server, and here we will see that particular project. So we see that test case got passed, right? And if you will see, so this is how we can see that test case got passed, right? So if I go to database now, right, and if I click on this build, I should see this particular information. So we'll see one id equal to 1 and display id is 1, right, which is same as this one. So this is the build id, right, meaning the data is getting populated to this particular MySQL database, right? Now let me come back here, right? So this is the setting. Now let me go to Cucumber framework, right? So for Cucumber framework as well, we need to update this particular chain test properties, which is 1.0.11, meaning dependency version, right? And in chain test.properties, again, we need to update this particular information, right, for chain LP server. Okay, so for chain LP server, we have enabled it, and this is the class name, and this is we are running locally, right? Now we are going to run this particular test case, right, which is chain test dot feature, I believe, which is going to run, right? Here we are using runner, so UI test runner chain test, and we are providing this particular we are using this particular test ng actually, right? So here it is already available, so I'm going to run it, right? And this test case is also related to launching source demo app and entering credentials and verifying the label of the product. So let us see. It got failed. I believe it is related to assertion error, right? So let me go here, and there was a negative validation actually. So let me remove it, and before that, let me show you. We should be able to see a different project because this is a different project, right? If we go here in chain test, and meaning in Cucumber, and we see chain test dot properties, and this particular project has a different name. That's why we are able to see this particular case, and we are able to see the this particular thing as well, right? So we are seeing this particular screenshot. I'll come to that part, right? It is coming because of database, right? Now uh, like we have I'm going back to this particular test case because this was failing intentionally. I have simply removed this particular negation which was available already, so I have removed it, and now I'm going to rerun this particular test case once again. So it should pass this time. So now I'm going to click on projects, and in Cucumber case we are seeing two builds, right? If I click here, I can see the pass, right? Now let us verify the same from database, right? So for that purpose, we need to right click on this and we need to click on SQL editor and open SQL editor, and we can verify this particular table again. And if when we will run this, we'll be able to see three builds, right? So one is related to non-BDD, that's why we have 0 here, and other are related to BDD, right? That's why we are saying BDD here, right? And for BDD we have two builds, right? 1 and 2, while for TestNG we have only one build. So why I'm showing this to you, because I want to show you that this is reading the data from this particular database, right? So we can verify from here. So for Cucumber we have two builds. So if I click here, so we have two builds, right? 1 and 2, right? While for TestNG we have only one build, right? So this is how we can integrate MySQL, right, for ChainLP report. Next thing is screenshot handling, right? Because in ChainLP report previously, right, we were dependent on cloud storage such as S3. So for H2 we have already demonstrated S3, but now there is no such dependency. We can directly utilize database as well. So for that purpose, we'll have to disable cloud storage services in chaintest.properties, and then we need to enable this particular property, which is true by default. So if this is false, then it will automatically store the screenshots onto this particular database, right? Even if irrespective of this property, right? If it is false, right? So now I'm going to demonstrate the same, right? So for that purpose, first of all, I'll make an intentional failure in TestNG, right? So this is the case, and here I'm simply going to add negative validation, right? Similarly, I'll do it for Cucumber, but let me run it for TestNG first. So it should fail because this is intentional failure. And with respect to this, we should be able to see the screenshot as well. So you see, this is intentional failure. Let me go to ChainLP dashboard and let me refresh it, right? Here in TestNG also, we are able to see the failed test case, and corresponding to failed test case, we are able to see the screenshot, right? I'll show you just now. So screenshots are stored in this particular embed class, embed table, I mean, right? So I'll simply use embed, right? And we will simply run it. So we are able to see two screenshots. Why we are seeing two? Because in Cucumber also there was one screenshot, right? So let me show you. So this is one screenshot here, right? If I go back, so first test case in Cucumber got failed. That's why we are able to see screenshot here as well, right? Now what I will do is I'll go to Cucumber and I'll make Cucumber also as a intentional failure, and let me run it once again. So this should also fail, and corresponding to this, we should be able to see a failed test case in ChainLP dashboard, and we should be able to see the entry into the MySQL database. So it got failed. Let me go to chainLP server, I mean dashboard. So I'm going to refresh it. As soon as I will refresh for Cucumber test case, we'll see three test case, right? Three results, I mean, or three builds, right? So if I go back, right, so we have three builds. First one was failed, the second was a pass, and for third, if I'll come back, we are able to see this particular screenshot, right? So this particular screenshot is again served from this particular embeds. So let me rerun this particular table, and this time we should be able to see three screenshots, right? So this is how we can check that these are the screenshots, right? Okay. So this is, so if we click here as well, we can see the screenshot as well. So this is what I wanted to cover as part of current lecture, where I wanted to discuss how to utilize this chainLP server along with MySQL database. So thank you for watching. I would request you to please like, share and subscribe. Thank you once again.